Nerd on the Podcast is proudly partnered with Apogee Electronics and Odyssey Headphones, leaders in the field of audio.
Oh man, that's the saddest superhero I think.
What's up, everyone? Welcome to Nerd on the Podcast you didn't need, but you deserve, where all levels of nerd are welcome.
Yeah, you are.
Today we have a very special guest with us.
Nope.
But before we get into any of that, I'm going to introduce the hosts.
Yes.
I am Caitlin,
I'm Tom.
who
And
jumps the
I'm-
gun on anyone else speaking.
Yes.
His natural inclination was to correct you when you weren't wrong.
Mhm,
Well, I
know.
thought you were going to go straight into it. So I'm Tom.
And I am Josh, and this episode is brought to you in part by the members of the Nerd On Nation that is powered by Patreon.
Patreon.
As a member of the Nerd On Nation, you do get fun perks. Like you get early access to these episodes. You get bonus episodes that nobody else hears. You get discounts on merch. You get access to secret channels in our Discord server. There's a lot of fun stuff, so do check it out. nerdon.tv/Patreon. And at the end of the day, you get to help us to grow and be the best that we can be because we love doing this and we love creating quality content for you. And the Nerd On Nation allows us to make better and better and better content for you
Stronger.
and harder to kill. No. And check out that Discord, nerdon.tv/Discord. It's growing by the day and lots of really fun conversations going on over there. And a huge shout out to our partners, Apogee and Odyssey. Apogee has, of course, equipped us with these microphones, a hype mic. Do check it out. It's a wonderful microphone. USB, connects to your mobile device, Mac, Windows. We use it for everything that we do. So check it out. It's high quality, good stuff. Professional voiceover artists use it. It's good
Like
stuff.
me.
Like Caitlin.
And
Who I cut
Odyssey
off.
headphones all the time. Odyssey headphones, very high quality, very comfortable, and they have a whole line of headphones to check out from super pro level to consumer level. And these LCD ones, I can't suggest them enough. They're very comfortable, sound great. And check out the Mobius and Penrose. Penrose is their brand new gaming headset that's pretty dope. That has a Shure microphone built in. It's really cool. But check them out, Odyssey headphones. But that's the housekeeping. What are we doing here today, Caitlin?
What's going on, Caitlin?
Day, Tom. We're going to be talking to a good friend of mine. We're going to be talking to Mr. Nick Lanipator Landis.
Who's he?
I'm excited. He is one of the co-founders of Team 4-Star, who made Dragon Ball Z Abridged. He's a voice actor. He recently was Michelangelo in Smite. He's been in RWBY. He's been in Fairy Tale. He's been in a lot of things, really. And he's also working on a game as well right now, a game system. But we'll get into all of that in just a minute.
Yes, we
Enjoy.
will. Well, Nick, thank you so much for joining us. My
Happy
goodness,
to be here.
initiating progress.
There we go.
My goodness.
We've had Nick in the digital green room for 4 hours now.
Yeah.
I've just been sitting back there, and there were not enough red M&Ms.
I'm sorry.
Oh.
I did tell them. I told the interns we needed more red M&Ms, and they just. I'm sorry.
Oh, they got
We have
Skittles
interns?
again, didn't they? Oh, dang
They
it.
mixed it in with the M&Ms. Do you know how hard that is to pick through?
Oh, gross.
There's Reese's Pieces, M&Ms, and Skittles all in that same bowl. It is a handful of nightmare.
But now color coded. Roy G. Biv.
Experience.
It looks
Yeah.
nice. And it's an
A handful of
experience.
experiences. That's
Yeah.
what you meant. Yeah.
Well, Nick, thank you for spending some time to grace us with your presence on our show.
What's so funny is that Nick has been like almost like a ghost member of Nerd On, so to speak, and all like
It kind of feels that way.
in our streams since the beginning of quarantine. Since back
I've been
then.
hopping around.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So how are you doing? How have you been? How's it going on?
Oh boy, is that a mixed bag.
That is a mixed bag. We like to
What a
go
loaded
in.
question.
We like to go in. Yeah.
Well, I mean, obviously I'm dealing with a lot of the same stuff that everybody is, just inside a lot, consuming a lot of media, which luckily I was raised to be pretty good at. So,
Yeah.
you know, I'm very it's a real mixed bag in the fact that, you know, on one hand, it really sucks being isolated like this, that kind of forced isolation. But it's so much better the fact that the internet exists and you're not just cut off. Like they talk about the 1800s, like the Spanish flu.
Yeah.
No internet back then.
No.
What you do?
No
You got
Netflix.
cans and
You
string.
sit and you drink. Like that's what you did back then.
Yeah.
Yeah.
A little simpler because you didn't know how bad the world was.
Yeah, that's true.
But also you didn't have wonderful, cool things to watch.
yeah.
All the
So,
time.
you know?
And to binge. You can only
at the alley-
binge the
You
the
just watch
countryside
the alley
so
cats
much.
and see like, oh man, that tabby's really uppity today.
The highs
That's
are
what you
higher.
did back then.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're right.
Now you got Tiger King.
That's a good way.
I
That's
almost
man,
started
can't
watching
believe.
that. I haven't seen it yet. I'm a
I
terrible
remember that was
person.
the biggest thing.
I could not finish it. It's
Crazy.
It's yes, but like in all the ways where it's like I know this part's fake, I know this part's fake, and God, these people are weird. And
I kind of steered away. I was like, I don't want to know about more bad people.
yeah, there's enough bad going on out there, which you also have to process in the middle of all this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
You know, you take it one day at a time.
We do.
yeah, one COVID day at a time.
Mm-hmm.
So for our audience at home that do not tune into our streams, our podcast audience, where did you and Caitlin meet? How did this get you here to YouTube and our Twitch and all that kind of stuff?
And Caitlin jump into.
A decade.
Yeah, a decade, a whole decade
A
of meat.
whole decade.
It took 10 years to get him on the show, everyone. I hope you're
Yes.
happy. We do it for you.
Yes.
Yes.
10 years ago in October, as a matter of fact, was the first time I'd met Caitlin. It was in Detroit. She had no idea who the hell I was or
I
any of the
binge
people I was
watched a
working with
bunch
was.
of.
Yep.
I binge watched a bunch of Dragon Ball Z Abridged because I knew we were interviewing them the next day, but I had no idea who they were or what they did.
Yeah, so as a brief introduction for anybody out there that, for good reason, has never fucking heard of me, I was a co-writer and co-founder for a group known as Team 4-Star. We, our biggest project, we work on a bunch of anime parodies, but our biggest project was Dragon Ball Z Abridged, in which I voiced majority of the reoccurring cast and
Just like real anime.
wrote for it. Yeah, you know. I mean, Chris Sabat played literally almost all of the characters I play, so it's like, there you go. But yeah, so that was our big claim to fame, so to speak, or infamy, depending on what side of the ocean you're on.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
and so, you know, we'd get invited out to anime conventions, and Caitlin was working for another website at the time, and they were coming out to interview us. Like I said, she had no idea who we are, but there was this interview. Yeah, it was an interview, and really hit it off, made great friends, and just kind of stayed in contact throughout the rest of the 10 years, on and off playing games every now and again. And yeah.
Same friend circles, and then I started getting into voice acting, and then so I came to visit because I was in a project that was you guys were in too, I believe, Hells.
Yes.
And so yeah, we've always been kind of playing games and kind of in the same groups of friends and everything. And then you visited LA for some work stuff back in March, right before the shutdown.
Yes. Yeah. Literally, this was the last thing I did before everything shut down. I was going down there for some event for a Square Enix game that they were trying to release, but then everything got kind of shoved back that way.
A little bit.
Mm-hmm. And life had thrown me a few curveballs at that point too. And Caitlin has just been an insanely wonderful and amazing supportive friend throughout this entire process. And I've tried to be the same.
Friendship.
Yeah.
Yeah, friendship.
Our
Where's my
friendship.
triangle? Ding.
Digimon Abridged.
Abridgimon, sir.
My bad.
Yeah, don't be messing up the name, Tom. Come on.
Where's the shame cam? The pun shame
I mean,
cam.
we're on it. This is it. I'm in it.
Tom is
That's
constantly in shame camp. None of us can speak English today.
No
but
one.
that's fine.
We've all lost it. That's what 2020 did to us, y'all.
Our English is compromised.
Yes.
So it's pretty much what we normally do with our guest is we did it ourselves, our very first episode, and we talked about where our tree of nerddom came from, like how we got into pop culture and fandom and all that kind of stuff. So I'm curious about you. Like what started your nerdiness, like your nerddom? Like what going back
popped
to the
it?
roots.
I grew up in a very like media dense household. Both my mom and dad were like in the radio business, like, big like RKO back in the day. Like my dad had met like and worked with a whole bunch of people like Larry King, Casey Kasem, Eddie Murphy. Like there was this like long line of pop culture that I was already kind of like being fed as I was, gaining sentience and
Growing?
yeah. And as I as I was growing up, just downstairs in my basement, we had this whole wall of VHS tapes.
Hell yes.
And I would just like, and it was like everything from, like Star Wars to like fucking Sliver. Like there was just like, the randomness, like the assorted, and
The
that
treasure cove, some would say.
just this huge pile of media that when I get bored, sometimes I'd just like pull one and pick through it and I'd find some stuff that I like. And that doesn't even come close to touching all the like recorded off of television specials type stuff that's also like sitting in its own cabinet.
Oh my God.
I think I consumed more media than I did calories growing up at some points.
Oh my God.
That's
some people would say
really
that's
where
healthy.
does great things for the human mind when it's
Oh
in development.
yeah, real good.
Look at me. Anyway, so that's really where it all started, where those roots started taking place. Like I have seen so many damn movies from the age of like 5 to like when I left that house. I probably could not count them all. Like spanning genres. I really
You're like
got
not
into
even
horror.
sure why you saw it. Like you just like
I
watched it.
It's like I'm bored. Let's put in. I don't know.
The Gate.
Let's watch The Gates. Oh, here we go. The Cell. Let's watch The Cell. Wow, that was weird.
Oh my God.
But it wasn't bad.
Not bad, but very weird.
Yeah,
like
yes,
it took me 2 watches to kind of be like, you know what? I understand. I think.
I was gonna say some people still don't understand after all these years.
Yeah,
Because is there something to understand?
it's not really. It's not for you to understand. It's for you to just watch and experience.
Avant-garde, baby.
I had to look it up just now, and I was like, oh yeah, I remember that
Cell,
one.
baby, come on. It's a classic.
Jennifer Lopez at her best.
Yeah, yes.
Yeah, it started on like, VHS media. Then I, started getting into video games. My parents would always buy me like the hot new toys, whatever was coming out, because I was a spoiled little shit. And
All right.
At least you can.
yes,
Say it.
no, I know what it does to a person. And so like I'd play like all the games. My parents never cared if it was like M-rated or whatever. So like I just like play all of these things growing up. And eventually Toonami came out and I started getting into anime, but only like the mainstream anime. I never took that stuff that was like I was a dub purist until probably like my freshman year in college when I started actually watching some of the other stuff. Cause like, I've caught up on what the dub is. So I don't want to wait anymore.
And then you finally just start reading.
I'll watch the subtitles.
I guess I'll watch the subtitles for Bleach.
I guess I'll read a movie.
Yeah.
YouTube, baby. That was like the gold mine. You see all these like subbed things and they just have such a good catalog.
Yeah.
Back in the day.
And somewhere along the lines, Abridged happened also.
Yeah. It was around that transition from like high school to college when I was like, still really into like, the Toonami anime. Yu Yu Hakusho at the time was my favorite,
Yeah.
which is the show I kind of like started parodying. I did a Yu Yu Hakusho Abridged. Nobody go look it up. It's absolutely awful.
I
Did not
did.
age well.
Tom watched it.
It's your number
Erase
one
it from your
video on
mind.
your channel.
It is, in fact. I mean, there's no getting around it. Like that's what started everything.
You grew from there. That's it.
Yeah,
You know, like,
from my career, so
Yeah.
to speak. Like that's what launched everything. It's how I met a bunch of my friends. It's how we, came together and made Team 4-Star. And I do not regret making any of those, but man, can I not watch them anymore.
I feel
the
that.
innocence of cringe, right? But there is something kind of nice to be able to like, hey, something that I grew from. I've changed, I've grown, I've learned, and I've gotten better, and I've crafted it. But everyone starts from somewhere, so
Yeah.
it's nice that if people do, want to emulate you in some fashion, that they have like something like, oh, well, even they began somewhere. And even when they're like, maybe they're kind of like, wow, they had imagination at least. And that's the first start. It's the first step.
Yeah, and really what that project was to me was just like it was a sense of like taking some control back in my life, because at the time, like when I started it, I had like freshly injured myself playing rugby. Like I broke my back basically. I was unable to do any of the stuff that I wanted to do in high
Yeah, it
school.
wasn't a small injury. You're like,
No.
oh, I twisted
No,
my ankle. No, you broke your back.
Yeah,
That's a superhero origin right there.
Oh man, that's the saddest superhero I think.
I broke my back, man.
I broke my back and then I made anime parodies. Look out, criminals!
We're on to something.
So yeah, I was sitting there like it was a pretty dark point in my life because like I mean for high school like you don't have a big scope, but because I couldn't do any of the things I wanted to do. I couldn't go to prom. I couldn't do theater anymore because I don't have mobility. So I'm sitting there like just thinking, what the hell am I gonna do with my time? And I discovered Martin Little Karibo Billini's Yu-Gi-Oh! The Abridged series. And I'm like, holy shit, this is great. Wait a minute. All he's doing is using footage and talking over it and editing around it. I have a computer. I can do that. That doesn't involve legs.
There it is.
And
You're not wrong.
So yeah, and so I started it up, and for some reason people started watching it and liking it, which was even more befuddling to me. And then I just kept going, and that's basically how I ended up meeting Caitlin.
It kind of sounds.
And now over a decade has passed.
Yeah.
and now we're here.
There's gray hairs in my beard now. That is inevitable.
I think we're about the same age. So it's like I'm starting to see him and I'm like, oh, is that what that is? Age.
No.
I mean,
What a novel thing. What a novel thing.
I've listened to some interviews with you and you kind of explaining kind of the process of Team 4-Star, and it sounds like one of those processes where you kind of met and surrounded yourself with people that were better than you in a sense of like somebody edited better or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
Like it sounds like it's kind of a nice natural thing to happen where everybody kind of has their thing that they do and that they're good at, and it just is this copacetic experience of good shit.
Yeah. Like there is nobody I know that can like pitch jokes like my buddy Taka Curtis Arnott. Like he is a joke firing machine. Like they sometimes need to be refined, but that boy will like keep going. And nobody in my life have I met who is a better editor than my buddy Scott Kaiser-Necco Frericks. Me,
So good.
I like to think that I kind of like tie like I am often the conflict resolution person between
the
those
glue.
two.
Mediator.
The glue.
I am. I'm the heart, but no. I'm the actor of the crew. That's what I do.
Look at me.
Talent is here.
Yes, I'm the talent. And I work and I refine scripts. I'm very good at making a joke work if it's like a little like if it's just like you're trying to pound a square peg into a circle. I'll shave off those corners for you.
It fits.
Sounds right. Sounds right.
It's needed.
Yeah.
I kind of wanted to have a little bit of fun. Just because I'm a nerdy boy. I like the animes.
I'm the one that nerds.
Really?
But you've had a lot of experience getting to know the characters that you end up abridging and making your own. but you had to know a little bit of, who they were. But, a little bit of deep diving. Everyone could look up online the roles you've played for the Abridged series that you've been a part of.
Yeah.
I kind of want to go through a lightning round speed of different Abridged series that you've been a part of.
Okay.
And then you list off who's the best character in your eyes.
Oh, okay.
Okay, you ready? You cool with this?
Yes.
So we're only talking about the Abridged series. So I'm going to start off with Mother's Milk. Yu Hakusho.
Kuwabara.
Naruto.
Rock Lee.
Yu-Gi-Oh.
Joey Wheeler.
Hellsing.
Alucard.
Final Fantasy VII.
Ooh, that one's tougher. Tifa.
And finally, Dragon Ball Z.
Gotta go with Piccolo.
There's
really
a
thought you
theme.
were gonna
I'm
say
seeing a
Vegeta.
theme here. Okay, I like it. That's awesome. But I mean, so you kind of had a theme for the beginning with Kuwabara, Rock Lee, and Joey Wheeler. Is there a particular reason why you kind of go towards a little bit more of the comic relief characters, right?
They're comic relief, but they're underappreciated. And when they the moments when they count, when they get that win, it just feels so much better. Don't anybody that's watched Naruto, the moment, even though he didn't win this one, the moment Lee dropped the weights.
Oh my god.
If you didn't lose your shit,
Yeah.
you should check your pulse. Cause god damn, that got little Lanny was fucking running around the room yeah!
I mean, that's the same thing with Piccolo too. When he throws off the hat and he throws off the cape, and it's like
has thrown down the gauntlet. He's it.
Yeah, and it's like
he
the
never,
wind's
he
like,
never
oh my
gets once Nappa shows up, Piccolo never gets his respect again, except against second form Frieza. When he shows up against that, it's but it's this isn't where it's ending, but go, buddy.
I mean, he kind of when he went against 17 and he became a super
and it's one of my
mimic.
favorite fights in the entire show.
It's pretty great.
It's so fucking cool.
Yeah, and
It's a shame that if you're not a Saiyan, you don't matter.
yeah. I mean, he mattered for 10 seconds in the new Broly movie.
Yeah.
a whole 10 seconds.
He had a fun part in that. I'm glad my boy Piccolo was in it.
Yeah,
And he was great in Dragon Ball.
he is. I mean, he was badass in Dragon Ball. But it's funny. I like you kind of picked the slept on people, other than Alucard. But all the Joey Wheeler, it's kind of you never know if he's gonna win or not, which makes it exciting to watch. There's no plot armor around these characters.
It's the character with the tension in the battle. That you actually have some investment there. It's okay, yeah, obviously this fight could go kind of either way until you start learning the tropes. It's no, they're gonna job here so that when the real guy wins, it's better.
Yeah, it's hey, I need you to throw in the towel. It's no, I have all the
Oh.
at least nobody got shafted like Yamcha. Yamcha was that guy in Dragon Ball. He shows up, he beats Goku once because Goku was hungry. And then throughout the rest of the series, he's there to be the punching bag for the guy that Goku has to beat.
He is the anime distracted boyfriend meme. 100%. He is that girl, and Bulma's just looking at Vegeta just the entire time. But except it's just the audience. We're man, isn't that guy cool? He has wolf fang fists. Nah, he ain't cool. Krillin's cool. It's oh, okay, my bad. Oh, he's not cool. Tien's cool. It's oh, my bad.
Which is why it was so hype when Fighters came out and Yamcha was just an S tier an S tier fighter for the longest time.
Yeah,
he's still good for so many people. I wish I were better at that game.
No lie, that game is intense. But I love when you could have that meta where the low ranking character in the shows translate to games and they're just phenomenal. But
I'd rock some shit with Rock Lee and Ultimate Ninja Storm. So don't even take me.
Yeah, so good. And just when those gates unlock, it's so good. It feels so good.
Feels so good.
So good.
I mean, the only
Josh.
question that I have that I was really curious about, because it's such an interesting media, even just a concept of abridging shows. What, if you don't mind abridging, you can slap me later.
God.
Behind the
Wow.
scenes of the development and production of something like that, choosing the topic, how you're going to go about it, and then the actual production of it. I'm very curious about that, just even from a creator standpoint. How do you do the thing you do?
Well, once you've selected like, your project, the first and most important thing is you got to choose something that you love, because making fun of something that you love, there's a different feel from making fun of something that you hate.
Yeah.
Like that, making fun of something that you hate is how you end up with something like Epic Movie, Whereas if there's like genuine love for something, like an appreciation for it, you can, make Airplane or Spaceballs.
Yes.
Like,
'Cause
you
you're
gotta have an
roasting it.
appreciation. Yeah. Yeah. You enjoy the material, and that love shines through in the final product. You're not trying to make a stupid version of the thing that other people like. You're trying to make a funny version of something that you enjoy. So
Yeah.
that's the first step in the process. And then when it came to like going episode per episode, or even like some of the movies for DBZA, what we do is we'd sit down and we decide, okay, what is the next natural stopping point from where we left off? Like, what would be the best point to say, like, hey, this is where it should end, so that we can pick up here and there's like a little bit of a cliffhanger, or this part, like, we can make a really good joke here so you can cap the episode with that. And we say, like, okay, so we need to get from point A to point B. What is all the stuff that happens in between, and how do we work through it? What is the rhythm for it? When do we use these cutaway scenes that we have? Like, because there's always like an A plot and A plot, B plot throughout the series. So you're able to like say, okay, so on Namek, okay, we want to get to like from this part to when the Ginyu show up. Okay, we still have all these scenes with Bulma, just off doing her own random shit on Namek that we can pull from if we have a scene that we need to break up somehow. So it's like, okay, yada, 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 make a joke here. And, that feels like a good endpoint. Let's show Bulma fighting a crab. There you go.
And see.
And from there, like once you have it all scripted out, which is the most intensive process, because, you're staying true to the characters. You want things to flow. You want it to be funny, but you don't want like joke, 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 or else it gets monotonous.
It's an actual story. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you need a little bit of a flow, a little bit of a heart, some meat to it.
Is it groups of episodes that you would write, or would it be one by one, depending on, because sometimes improv will maybe even take you a little bit away, not away.
We typically go one by one. There are only a few cases where we'd write like multiple episodes in a row, and those would be usually like the season finales, where we'd usually like, it would still be one episode, but it would be in like 3 parts. Like episode 60, I think in total is like almost an hour long, because like each part is like almost 20 minutes.
Yeah.
And so, like there's still like room for improv in the booth. Taka is notorious for going off script. Sometimes that stuff makes it in. Sometimes it absolutely does not. But you do what you can, and whatever Kaiser ends up with, because he's the editor of the series, he'll look at it and say, okay, like, sometimes stuff still needs to get trimmed out to make it flow better, lines here and there, bits here and there. Usually it doesn't hurt the episode, but like sometimes you just don't have the footage to make a joke you wanted work and you thought you did. So you work around it. And as he's going, he would show me basically like, the equivalent of dailies.
Yeah.
And I'd look them over and be like, okay, timing is one of like these things that I just kind of have like driven into me, like comedic timing, which, we'll get into when we talk about Up later on.
Mm-hmm.
And so like I'd talk to him about like, the pacing for the scene. It's like, okay, add 2 beats here, and then the punchline will be a little bit stronger, or, this needs to be a little tighter. And, then he'd refine it, and I'd be like, perfect. And he'd be like, I hate you. And I'm like, I know, but it's better for it. And then we'd move forward until we finally have a finished product. And then it goes up on YouTube. We wait until we see, how people respond. And then we start working on the next episode and working on it from there.
Wow.
Nice.
Well, and speaking of refining, since I know that you have also been working on your own game system.
Yeah.
I want to just talk about that for a quick second. So for those of you that are just being introduced to Nick, he every Monday runs a D&D series called Roll With Me. And it has me, Kurt, Distortion Devil, who's Connor, and Shadow Dancer Bob. And every week we've been playing D&D for a long time at this point. But recently on the Unexpectables, just started a series called gateway that Connor is DMing, and Nick, myself, Sarah, and Hey Mr. Rabbit are the players in it. But that is using Nick's new game system that he has been working on.
Yeah.
Which, if you want to talk about that for a quick minute, that would be great.
Sure, thank you. It's a system that I've dubbed Ready to Roll. It is essentially, I like D&D. I like D&D a lot, but to me, the combat in D&D really drags. Some people really like the mechanics of Dungeons and Dragons combat or Pathfinder, where it's like very math heavy, very mechanics. Let's roll a billion dice. Some people just love the feeling of that.
I've been in combat now for 3 weeks.
Yeah. Yeah.
my God.
I know exactly what that is.
ran.
It's fine, and I love it. But I was like, wow, this is 6 seconds, baby.
Yeah. Every round is 6 seconds, but it can take like 5 minutes.
Mhm.
And I both I like it because, it can lead to some like really cool tense situations, but I also hate it because I'm the type of RPG player where I really like to, role play, and I don't want to just sit back and wait a half an hour until I get to try to kick somebody again.
Yep.
And that's kind of where I wanted to come from with this system. It's based on the Apocalypse World system. So it's powered by the Apocalypse system, which is just a 2d6 system. And it's very simple. Basically, you roll the dice and you add a specific stat to it, whatever the GM decides. Like, I want to break open this rusty door. Okay, roll plus, like in my system, it would be roll plus body or roll plus strength. You roll your dice. If the result ends up with like 10 or higher, you automatically succeed. Bam, that door's open. It's out of your way. Move on. If you roll below, like a 6 or below, you failed. That door is too heavy. You can't do it. And then there's like the middle ground between 7 and 9, where it's like you roll, okay, you get open the door, but you alerted a bunch of people by breaking that door down. Like everybody heard you, and now they know you're coming, so you got to work around this situation. In combat, it's more along the lines of, you succeed, you take care of whatever the hell you were trying to do. Like you took that guy down, and you take no damage doing it. 7 through 9, you take that guy down, but he deals some damage to you. Okay. And 6 and below, this guy just slaps your shit. Like, what are you doing?
Laughs at you.
So throughout like the last year, but especially during quarantine, I've been working to refine that. And it's been a lot of fun, and I hope people enjoy it when it comes out. When it does come out, I am releasing it pretty much absolutely for free, just because I want people to enjoy it.
So if I may, for a hypothetical, only because I'm trying to apply it to my real world scenario, the D&D campaign I'm in. What if we're fighting like a giant dragon? Mm-hmm. I don't know. So I don't know how your system works. So like I roll. I'm not the only one killing the dragon, or is that a possibility?
Basically, the way that would work, if you have like a very specific large creature that you're dealing with, the GM would have to take into account, okay, what are you fighting it with? Are you fighting it with a sword, or do you have a howitzer? Because, the howitzer is going to do more damage to a dragon than a sword is going to.
Yes.
So in that situation, like the dragon might take a few successful rolls to actually, take down or conquer. And maybe you have to be a bit more creative about it. Are you just going to run up to this dragon face first with a sword? It's probably not going to work so well. Are you going to, try to sneak around the dragon and cripple its wings? Yeah. All of a sudden you're doing some damage. Like, it's up to the player to decide how they want to go at something. If they're going to go something like face forward, guns ablazing, you better make sure that thing makes sense. You're not going to face down a tank with a shotgun.
That's cool. Like to your point, it takes more of the reins of like the player's imagination and takes away the mechanics of like, well, I'm going to run up and attack it, and so there's no real point in me having an imagination if I could just roll and attack and I fail anyways.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's cool. Like I'm always Matthew McConaughey, rain of fire, jump on a building, jump behind it, and then attack. That's the only way to do it, really. I think. But so.
Well,
that's cool.
I thought it was a very good segue because like, to me, this system is literally D&D abridged.
A little, yeah. 'Cause it's much shorter, and it's like it allows you more creative freedom with what you're doing when you're not just trying to play around that ability doesn't actually allow you to do that. You can only do this once per day. And are you out of spell slots? So you can't cast that spell right now unless you want to use a spell slot of a higher tier. So
And
Yeah.
it's like it's
There's
still
that.
fun to play in the classic way,
Mhm.
but it's literally like removing the 10 minutes of screaming for a power
Yeah,
up and going, did you punch him or not?
Yeah,
Yeah.
like Caitlin said, it's a bridge where it's like, you know, you still can enjoy the Dragon Ball Z and everything else that's been a bridge, but like this will just get you through the whole thing too and still remain true to the characters. So
It just like
Makes
the
it
last,
snappier.
Yeah, the last session of Roll With Me, the D&D show that I run that we just had, involved
Oh,
the group
Lord.
fighting a bunch of mind flayers, but half of the
wow.
group
Very
was
scary.
and you know, like there's some tactics around it. You can like, you know, jump to different areas so you can avoid their telekinetic blast. But unfortunately, the combat scenario started with everybody grouped up, and it's like everybody make an intelligence save, and all of a sudden half the party is like stunned for 5 rounds, and it's like, well, let's hope this works out.
here we
Yeah,
are.
we definitely had a moment of being like, wow, we might just all die right now.
You guys were pretty close. Like a few of you were pretty close to getting your brain sucked out.
I mean, we did have someone literally drowning, like passed out and drowning for a while.
Connor's character did in fact
Almost
lose
die.
consciousness. Yep. If he had stayed underwater for one more round, he'd be dead.
Dead.
Before we switch into the second half of the show with Up, I do want to talk a little bit about, so, you know, not, you know, I think a lot of people will, you know, pick your name out of, you know, the Abridged and as well as the work you know, the D&D campaigns, and anything that you've done kind of with the internet. But one thing I really like our audience to kind of pick out is something that I discovered recently. I looked you up. I researched you.
Oh, shit.
Is that you're
Tom's the deep diver. He knows all.
I care. I like to think that, you know, people are worth time to understand and learn. And your channel, you know, you show you know your exploits of like the cool things that are going on in your life, but you also take a moment to really kind of, as Josh has trademark copywritten, pull back the veil, and you talk about the real stuff in your life. You make an effort to try to connect with your audience, and I
It's like
like
motivational videos and stuff like that.
Mhm.
yeah, I like, you know, in the sense of like, you know, people aren't just fans. They're people who have, you know, taken a part of your life. You know, your life would not be the same without them. And, you know, you have a professional career as well with voice acting. And, you there's so much more facets to than just Team 4-Star, even though they're a big part of your life. And I kind of wanted to know what was your, I guess the catalyst to do something like that, to where you wanted to, you know, bring up the curtain and say like, hey, this is who I am, and these are the parts of my life that I want to share with you.
I think the biggest catalyst was there was a point where I hit a fairly low point. Just everything kind of stopped making sense to me for a while, and I mean, we all get there. Some of us are still there, in many ways. I still am. Where, you know, you realize at a point, holy shit, I'm an adult and I'm kind of in control of everything around me, but there are so many things around me that I feel like I don't have control of. And I started going on this real deep dive. Psychology has always been a big passion of mine. Like I have a bunch of psychology books that I collected like from high school and onward. If I wasn't so like, if I didn't get so much fulfillment from acting, I probably would have ended up, you know, studying psychology and becoming a psychologist or a therapist or something. And I didn't. So everything I say, take it with a grain of salt, because I am not a professional. I am not studied. But I realized, you know, there are so many other people out there that feel just as lost, just as alone. And I wanted to do something, I guess, to like just try to reach out to those people that have made my crazy, weird globe-trotting life possible. Like there are so many people that, you know, just by watching a video, clicking a thumbs up button, or like showing up to a stream, that have made so many things in my life possible. I've gotten to travel around the world multiple times. I've been to Australia, New Zealand, various parts of Canada, various parts of Europe, just to go out and meet people who are a fan of the funny voices that I make. And it's only because they really wanted to see me that I was able to go there. So I keep thinking about all those people out there and how amazing and supportive they've been, even if they don't realize it. And I just wanted to share with them the fact that, you know, I don't know what I'm doing. And these are some things that have kind of worked for me to like help me through my life. And I just started from there. Like a lot of my biggest issues come from, you know, like how do I stay motivated? How do I do some things that get me through those real down times that make the depression easier? Because everybody goes through fits of depression, maybe not as severely as others, but we all have a cycle that we go through. Everybody has ups and downs.
The seasons, so to speak.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And there are certain things that you can do as a person to try to form some habits that'll make it easier to get out of those spirals rather than, you know, just giving into them and saying like, well, I guess this is it for a bit.
Yeah, it's the taking responsibility to kind of part about it, where it's like what you were saying, like I kind of had something like that too, where it's like, oh shit, I can control my response. I can control kind of like my piece of it. Of this experience that I'm having, instead of just like going with the flow and just kind of, I don't mean to say this, but I'm going to say it, like the victim-ish kind of mentality where it's like, no, I have control of the way that I can respond in this situation. And it's not always going to be the same for each person. And I think I will tell you personally, I watched your videos multiple times. And I really enjoyed, especially the motivation one, because I think that that's such an important subject just in general of like staying motivated, finding motivation, that kind of thing. So it's like, it's especially in those dark times of like, how do you like get in the zone or even close to the zone?
How do you find the zone? How do you find that path back to it?
Yeah.
And it's where I kind of developed my own little self mantra that in those videos I called Bubble, which is better you, better life. The idea that wherever you are, no matter what point in life you find yourself, if you can find just any little aspect on which to improve upon, you can make your situation better.
I like a facet of it is that, you know, it's not like a consistency, like, hey, this is the week update and all that stuff, but it's like you show parts of, you know, like I think one of the most recent videos you had was you making like a pumpkin vegetable curry or something.
Yeah.
And it was like, you know, hey, you got to do this. And, you know, you may not get the recipe right. So you add more curry powder and stuff like that, where I think to me, it's like a nice transition to the topic of up, because no matter how old you are, no matter how many things you've done, there's always opportunities for you to learn and grow. And lessons will never stop being apparent to who you are in this world until, you know, you hit your final destination. But even then, even younger people can teach you new lessons. So, yeah. Now we're ready to talk about Up.
Oh yeah.
We're going to talk about Up.
Man,
So
Yeah.
if you didn't segue that, I was going to. It's literally the same thing.
Yes, that's why I did it.
people joining, if you are new to Nerd On, something that we like to do with our guests is we like to talk to them about something that they're nerdy about or that they're a fan of. Like
They get their nerd on
We
about.
all talk about it.
yeah, like with Andrea Romano, we talked about Romeo and Juliet. Yeah, so that's what we like to do here. So let's do the thing. Let's talk about Up.
Up, easily one of the greatest animated films of all time, in my opinion. Like
so
it's
good.
from top to bottom, it is spectacular. No matter how many times I rewatch it, I think on average, like it'll draw so many emotions out of me. I cry on average about 2.5 times. Like, you know, the
Every
big
5
ones at the
minutes.
beginning and at the book, but then there's always these like little sentimental bits in the middle that'll like sometimes it'll catch me off guard. I'm just like, oh yeah, that's right.
I started watching it. I watched it for this episode, but my wife was there with me, and she goes, "We're in the first 10 minutes, you know, the
We all
part."
Yeah, the
And
first
she
10
goes,
minutes.
"Oh yeah."
Yep. I watched it last night with Caitlin, and I'm pretty sure she said almost the exact same thing. And then I'm like, oh,
Yeah.
Oh.
I said this to him yesterday because I was like, I haven't watched this movie since like I saw it in theaters because I wasn't ready to get emotionally wrecked again multiple times from every angle.
I watched it. So, I mean, we can kind of go into, and something, we do traditionally here, Nick, and I want you to be able to take part of it, is our first initial reactions and our first impressions. Like, I remember watching it when it first came out, and I think it was 2009. And so, like, I just graduated, I just graduated high school. And I don't think it hit me that well, but I remember everyone sobbing about it. And I was just like, maybe I wasn't emotionally mature enough to really kind of like care about it. But then I remember watching it later on in college and being like, oh, wow, this is like the saddest first 10 minutes of any movie, like probably ever. And to me, that became like the later on, the signature of Pixar of, get the hard emotions out of the way. So when you get the catharsis at the very end, it hits you just as hard. But yeah, I watched it again for this episode, and it's funny because I think everyone remembers the first 10, 20 minutes, but then I completely forgot the rest of the movie. I'm like, why are we here? Well, I mean, I knew why we were there, but I didn't know why we were on this adventure. Like, what was the B quote unquote plot adventure, which actually is the A venture. And then I was like, oh my God, oh yeah, the dog, also, everyone listening,
Doug.
Spoilers for everything. I remember Squirrel. Everyone remembers Squirrel and Kevin.
Oh yeah, that became integrated into normal society. Squirrel.
Yep.
Yeah, and then I also forgot the grape soda pin, and I was like, why is that important? Oh, I understand.
The Ellie badge.
So I was like, oh, okay, my bad. Like, not gonna lie, because I have a friend who's like all about Disney. I'm more about Pixar than I am about Disney, but he's all about Disney, and he's like, look, I got this pin. And I was like, that's from Up, but I don't know I don't know what it's from. And then I realized, like, oh, my bad. I know what it is now. So that's it. I like Pixar a lot because I think they do a lot of anti-Disney stuff. And it's not to be like Disney's bad, but they do it in such a way where it's like, it's artful. And it's like more of a commentary of like, if Disney's all about the brand new things, Pixar is very much about like how like antiquated things become, like try to find a new role in the world. And
Pixar has that feeling of classic Disney. Before Disney, Disney was always commercialized, but before it was like so blatantly commercialized.
Yeah.
There is a sense of like Pixar of like change is good and change is growth and change also hurts, where like Disney's like, but let's make sure the king gets back to the castle kind of feel, where it's like, all right, I get it. And it's fine. It's wonderful. I don't want to disparage anyone, take anything away from anyone, but that's and Pixar. I think John Lasseter said like the reason why they're so successful is that they've done a anti-Disney route where like we don't include songs, we don't have these kind of characters, we talk about these things, and it's like, and it provides a space where both can live if you want to be a fan of both. So
yeah. I was actually reflecting last night during like just the credits of Up, where it's like, it's so nice not to have that, that one song that they also try to turn into a pop song that's way worse than the original version of the song.
And like the credits were even cute.
Yeah.
Everything.
And I loved about the credits of how the pictures go with the sound mixer credit was with them talking on like the can,
the little string, and they kept it in the scrapbook.
But I mean, what about you, Nick? Can you remember your first experience of watching?
Initial reaction.
My first experience with watching Up was just as emotional as my most recent experience watching Up for different reasons. When it came out in 2009. I was working in a movie theater, and it was the second movie I think we got with our new 3D screen, and I got to wear like the glasses, and it looked really cool in 3D. Admittedly, didn't need it. Like, it's just like you're looking onto a stage, but hey, it's a fun gimmick, and I worked at the movie theater, so I got to do it for free. So I enjoyed it. I cried my eyes out at it. Because when it comes to me, and like I always wear my emotions on my sleeves when I'm like feeling emotion by proxy, like when I'm feeling that cathartic emotion from viewing media, I'll cry at like the drop of a hat. I cried at the beginning of frickin' Star Trek when Chris Hemsworth is sacrificing himself for his baby boy. So I'm like, I'm that guy. And so like, I enjoyed it. I loved it. It is this immensely emotional movie that has this insanely good comedic timing. Like the cuts that they make in this movie are fantastic.
So good.
And Ed Asner's delivery on so many things is just fucking phenomenal. Like this movie is brilliant. There is a reason that it was the second animated movie ever to be nominated for Best Picture. However much credence you put into that, that still feels like kind of a big deal.
It is.
It's just so good. But yeah, that was my first experience at watching it. And I made sure I dragged pretty much everybody to go see it, like my family, my girlfriend, who ended up becoming my wife for a while. And I ended up walking down the aisle to the theme from Up. And I had like the Ellie badge pinned to my lapel and everything, which is why this most recent viewing, which is the first time I've watched it since, going into my divorce, also felt like so strong, like with those like emotions by proxy.
Wow. So you've had a journey.
Yeah,
you've had a journey with this film.
I'm reflecting on it from like the other side of like a different way of kind of like quote unquote losing a loved one.
Yeah. Wow.
And it's just, it was amazing to me that I could still feel the exact same way about the movie.
Yeah, that's one. That's a
way.
testament. That's truly a testament, especially if you like go through huge life changes and it doesn't. It's no question why the writer and director for this film was the writer director for Inside Out, and talking about emotions and how those change. And that's again like these hard concepts for children to kind of understand, and it's like given to them where it's like, yeah, like these are different things that to think about other than like find love and happiness will always win the day, where it's like emotions, how you and memories, how you look at it change, and like your journey doesn't just end with one thing, it continues on, and that's what anyone would really want you to do. So
yeah,
that's
go find your next adventure.
Yeah.
The book.
Caitlin or Josh, can you follow up with that?
Yeah, I mean
I like
the
the
experience
movie.
the movie's good. I'm gonna go cry. No, I basically copy and paste in a sense of like just I remember watching it in the theaters and being in not knowing what to expect really, of just like, oh, it's a Pixar movie, it's gonna look cool, and then you watch it and you're like, oh my god, I feel so many emotions. And now that I'm married, it's a whole different experience. It's old. Like I'm 85 now, so
you're like the same age as Carl.
Yeah. No, so now I'm married, and so it has a new feeling to it, new emotions of like there were so many moments of like reflecting on my marriage, and I'm just gonna say a favorite part right now. I'm gonna say it. I'm sorry to jump the gun, but my favorite part absolutely is when he finds the second half of the book that Ellie left him. And for me, like especially during current times, like with COVID and everything like that, for me, COVID has forced me to look at my life and see what I'm grateful for whatever I have already. And because COVID made like not pump the brakes, but slammed on the brakes for some of these things that I was looking forward to in my life. And so COVID and quarantine forced me to like look at the things that I already have. And when that happened, it was like, it was just like, I had to pause the movie, even though it was the end, I had to pause it and just like, kind of like reflect of like, I've got all these really great things. And sometimes I get in my head of like, wham, 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 wham. It's just like, no, there's
That's how I see you, Josh.
Wham! Somebody called the whambulance.
That's why you're called the baby, Josh.
Remember earlier, Nick, when I said that Tom
I'm seeing it now.
is you and Josh is Kaiser? There you go.
That's it. Here I am. I know who I am. Caitlin, how about you? What was your? I know you liked the movie, but what was your experience?
So the first time I watched this, I know that I was a blubbering mess. I know
what's
that
changed.
Nothing's really changed in that avenue. But watching it now, I have a lot more kind of understanding of what I was feeling the first time I saw it.
Oh.
Because like this is one of the first Pixar movies I saw where someone bled in it.
Yeah, that
Actually,
was
two
why I
people
remember watching it. And I was
bled.
like, "Yo, that's blood! Like you can't have that
Yeah,
movie."
they actually had blood. Like he actually hit someone. He was like a criminal. He was
Yeah.
gonna, you know.
I want to see the DC reboot of it where he like Carl becomes like a murderer.
Oh God.
And Doug actually hurts the bird. Like Alpha hurts the bird. Of like it was actually
Kevin.
bleeding. Yeah. And just like the things that they don't say, but they kind of show you some things, but most of it's like it's all implied. It's show
Don't tell.
Yeah. And watching it now, I'm like, oh my God, no wonder that hit so hard when I saw it the first time, because I already understood everything they were saying. And like watching it now, you get an even deeper understanding of it. Like you can constantly watch this movie again and again and again, and there will always be a new layer for you to watch it. Because like as a
Yeah.
kid, you think everything is set. You think everything is like, this is how my life is. This is how my life is going to be. This is it. Okay, cool. And then things start changing and shifting. And like in my mind, in 2009 when it came out, watching this, like kind of stupidly, I had it in my head that like when someone is like a curmudgeonly old person, they stay a curmudgeonly old person because what could possibly ever make them change?
They got to
then-
change for themselves.
Right. But like this movie was that kind of eye opener of like, no, they're not going to go to, you know, South America and find Kevin and feed it chocolate and find a 50 dog pack. Like that's not going to
Or-
happen. But like, or,
I mean, unless they
could.
try.
Yeah.
They try.
but like those mundane experiences can change you. Meeting someone who can utterly change your life, just from them showing up on your doorstep can change your whole perspective. And that scene in front of Fenton's,
Mm.
because like
Very
I
end.
never, yeah, like you have your heart out for Carl and also for Russell, but like I feel like my second watch, I understood more that Russell and Carl are kind of dealing with the same kind of loss.
Absence.
Yeah, an absence.
And
Yeah.
I like how they telegraph that with there is a symmetrical shot that they do when Ellie first puts on the pins, like you're part of the club now. And then the shot when Russell points to the badge that he's missing, it's pretty much the exact same like third of the frame. And so you're like, oh, I know what's gonna happen. Like that makes sense. Like
It's also directly over his heart.
his heart. Yeah. So when he crosses it and you know he gets that.
Yeah, but I'm gullible and didn't pay attention to that. So when he put the badge on there, I fall apart every time.
It was funny. I had you know, it's a meme now, but Batman versus Superman like PTSD where when Russell said cross your heart, I thought he was gonna say, why'd you say that name? I thought he was gonna just pull a Martha moment. I was like, this is gonna be golden. But it would
no.
be great. But no,
It's just such a brilliant piece of like writing because Russell embodies all the things that Carl loved about Ellie, and like, you know, they were never able to have children, but Russell is obviously the child that they like would have had in spirit. And so he's walking around and especially when Russell's like, you know, playing in on, I was like, what's that, Ellie? Oh, you say we should keep the bird? What? No, I told him no, because Ellie totally would have been like, yeah, no, let's keep this bird.
yeah, but and then also it's later on kind of I guess meets its full arc when Russell is kind of like saying like how his dad would show up to when he gets his final merit badge, and he would show up to this thing and he doesn't show up, and then Carl shows up instead. And it also kind of like relates back to when Carl gets Russell back and he's like, I don't want your help, I want you safe. And it's something that his dad probably wouldn't have said. He's like, I want you to get your badge, not to be safe, because a kid who wants the affection of his father wouldn't go at an old man's house when it goes in the air and in South America and all that stuff, just being like, I just want a badge. It's like, well, the badge is connected to his father. And so
Yeah.
now the kid doesn't get the badge, but he gets the father. So at the very end, he gets everything that he needs, but not what he wants. That's the Pixar way. And I mean, like the other writer, Bob Peterson, he wrote Finding Nemo, and I felt like Finding Nemo was. I still think Finding Nemo is one of the best written films, if anything, animated film, but one of the best written films because it doesn't really use a lot of formula, but it uses a lot of like, well, these are the things you have to do to have good character arc. And then, with combined with Pete Docter, who did Monsters Inc. and Inside Out, it's like, well, now you have that and you have all the emotional.
Now you have
ammo that you're gonna need.
emotions.
It's gonna hit like Monsters Inc. The ending sequence with the final chip on the door. So it's like there are a lot of good things that can happen with these two, and I'm like, man, get these two back together. I think it'd be really great.
Yeah, because it's incredible. Plus his masterful performance as both Doug and Alpha.
Yeah.
Doug, who is by far one of the most adorable dogs ever put to media.
Yeah.
Like just in design, the big wide like golden retriever, like with the big nose and the very like beautifully expressive eyes.
Oh.
You feel for Doug every time. Like when he says like,
call him-
poor baby.
When you call him a bad dog?
Yeah, he's just like sitting down like, no. Because like my dog is very skittish, even though he has like no reason to be. I love him. Everybody loves him. He wants to be everybody's
Raoul.
friend. But as soon as you tell him no, he'll just be like,
I'm sorry. I don't know what I did, but I'm sorry.
Don't hate me.
Also, oh my God, what was his name?
Muntz.
Muntz. That guy was fucking terrifying.
Yes.
Christopher Plummer, baby.
And he looks a lot like Christopher Plummer too. I think that was on purpose.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
And I mean,
Probably.
but also it's the fun, cautionary tale. Don't meet your heroes, But hopefully you do, and they're great people. But yeah, this was like this telltale, as well of like Carl having to learn that the idea of adventure in his mind is skewed. It's not what he actually thought it was. So again, it's a lot of you don't get what you want, but you learn the thing that you need. You learn the overall thesis of the film because you embody the antithesis. And they do a lot of the legwork of the very beginning of the film of like, why would this character think that this person he's ever met is a good person, that Ellie would want him to be stationary in this life? And so like, there's that healing scene that I call it where it's like he's just throwing out all the shit in the house.
Throwing out his literal baggage.
Mm-hmm.
Was it baggage?
But still symbolically leaving the two chairs next to each other so you can have that last emotional catharsis as he's flying away towards the climax of the movie.
Yeah.
And then the house is still there at the end.
Yeah.
Like it was meant to be.
Yeah. And that doesn't even like touch the brilliance that is just the theme itself. Like
Oh, Michael Giacchino, yeah.
Mm-hmm. It's brilliant because like, it has this like whimsical but every single time, like, moving forward, it's progressing in a downward progression, like musically. So when it does need to be used for those emotional moments, it's like, yeah, no, this is actually kind of a sad song if you listen to it like that.
But they also use it in like the danger sequences too, which is like, oh, this is dark.
They can use it for everything.
They used it for everything, and it works so beautifully in all these situations. It's just like,
it's why he got the Oscar.
yeah,
It's why he got the Oscar for sure.
So
Earned.
good.
Oscar well deserved.
Yeah.
Seriously, though.
Did you guys know about like the Edith Macefield story?
Edith Macefield? No.
So obviously, do a little deep dive because I get my nerd on and all that stuff. There was a house just like this, where instead there was a woman, Edith Macefield,
in Seattle, right?
Yeah,
In
I
Seattle.
think I've seen the picture of the house that you're talking about. 'Cause
Yeah.
it was like it was floating around the internet for a long while.
On the day of the premiere, Pixar and Disney asked if they can like hang balloons off the house because a very similar way of like with Carl's house, like big business, big America was like, we're going to build a mall. And so Edith was in Germany, then she moved all around the world, and then she moved back home to that house because her mom got sick, and her mom said, I would like you to be here with me until my final days. And so when Edith stayed there, and when the mom passed away, Edith was like, this is all I have left of her. So it's actually, if you think about it, it's a little bit of a different story than what Up is. Up is a little bit about like leave the past kind of where it is, where it is in the past. Or in Edith's story, it's more like, this is all that I have, and I'm not going to sell this house for even $1 million, which she was offered. And I think as of 2018, it's still there in Seattle. And like a lot of people have come and visited and like wrote balloons on it. And it was kind of just this like, wow, like life imitates art, art imitates life some ways, but apparently like, and that's the funny thing is that like people started like looking into if there's other stories like this, and all around America, like there's these houses that are in between malls, and or some of them that
Wow.
are
These big buildings.
yeah, and it's just like imagine like the Casper house, like just swedged in between a mall, and you're like,
Yep.
that's it. And it's cool. It's interesting because I think there is a level of like, if you start looking inside the sauce and seeing how it's made, you're just like, there is kind of like this idea all around the film outside of just the story of like people pushing Carl in a way where he's not really in control of a lot of things, and yet he's finally making a stand for himself. So it's interesting. It's very interesting.
That scary dude in the suit putting his hand on the fence.
Oh, I kind of love
and,
that
and,
guy.
and again, that show don't tell. It's just like, what's coming. Bam. This
Yeah.
house is mine now. There's nothing, like, he doesn't have to say a word to be like so menacing. They do so many great, just like no verbal like cuts. Like the best example obviously is him and Ellie growing old together. That beginning montage where they're showing you everything. They're giving you the visuals, but not speaking a single word of it. And you can just feel every emotional beat.
I think that's where like the most cinema comes from out of it. And like I've been a big proponent of like we need to kind of dialogue is wonderful and beautiful and it shows style, but like let's kind of get back to the roots of what filmmaking is. Of like it's just moving pictures and how do you invoke story and emotion and resonance.
Well, it's also like we've talked about it like with Edgar Wright showing the passage of time, creative ways to show the passage of time, and I think that this was such a not only beautiful but a creative way to show the passage of time. That it's not like
just
exposition.
Like the ties being tightened up as they're getting like
Multiple.
older and older until you finally see old Carl and old Ellie.
Yeah, and
And
then
you realize,
it's
oh man, we're kind of at the end of it now, and I haven't kept my promise to her yet. And that's really the driving emotional heartbreak for Carl, is that like he broke his promise to his wife, and he's going to do anything in his final days to make sure that he makes that right. But then he's brought into this circumstance where now he has this child that is in the middle of his like essentially suicide run to try to get this this promise fulfilled, and he gets dragged into this big adventure and is shown all of these like beautiful moments and like given a whole new lease on life just from interacting with Russell, the son he never had.
It's a very good on the writers to do that when I've taken this term of the writer is God, and you are a mean, terrible God, and you just torture your characters of doing a bunch of, however, but it's like, okay, cool, like we want to do this, but the tires need to be fixed on the car, so you save up more money. But now the tree fell in the house. Now you're old, and it's like, so now you're gonna go do this, but now she's sick. So it's like years later, it's like, okay, cool, now I'm gonna do this thing, but now you're in trouble. So how are you gonna get there? And so a lot of but however ifs happen, and that's where story is because if you're always just throwing conflict at the characters, how they achieve their goal, and it may not be the one that we're looking for, it's just a different one. It's the weight in gold of what the filmmaking is about. So
Yeah. Otherwise that's how you end up with like Game of Thrones season 8,
yeah.
Like this happens and then it resolves. Next.
We kind of forgot that dragons are smart.
But you see, Daenerys forgot about the Iron Fleet.
Yeah.
So
forgot that spears are a thing.
Look over here.
also Euron's like Hawkeye out of nowhere. But
Seriously.
enough about talking about things I hate.
I think so I don't know if we could do it. Favorite 2 characters of the film. It's kind of easy, but I feel like we can.
You say it's easy, but I was actually reflecting with Caitlin last night that there isn't a single character in this movie that I dislike. I mean, there are characters that you're supposed to hate, but like even like the villain, like Charles Muntz, like he's still wonderful. He has this like charm to him, this evil charm, and I'm a sucker for a bad guy. That said, my favorite characters are just going to be Doug and Carl.
Fair. That's fair.
Josh?
I'm gonna say that the main duo of
Carl and Russell.
Just the way that they work off of each other and just how they interact with each other. And it's fun.
Yeah. I think I'm gonna copy paste with a special shout out to Kevin.
Okay. I feel like Carl more and more in life. I wake up and I hear the cracklies.
Old man Tom.
I was just like, ugh, like hitting the chair, just like, come on. So, in terms of characters, I think I like Kevin. She's wonderful, and
She's great.
and Muntz, because to that point, what Nick was saying, like when he's like, all these adventurers have wonderful stories, like the old man who wanted to get his house here, and I was like, oh shit,
Yeah.
And you're sitting in there in that scene because you don't know how long this, like, if this isolation has truly driven him crazy. Like, what if these people were just here to make a map, dude? Like, are you sure about this?
What
like,
if they were actually just coming to see you and like check in on him, and then he like twisted their story?
Yeah. Because, like, and really, it's that stupid science board that's to blame for this. I mean, you know, his motivations are the key problem, where it's like he's looking for glory, not for adventure, which is what Carl and Ellie were all about for the adventure. But the fact that they're like, this bird's fake. Well, I'm gonna go back and get it. You know, I'm gonna prove it.
I'm gonna prove you
So,
wrong.
like, he spends his entire lifetime, like the rest, like all of his good
50,
years,
60 years.
Yeah. down there looking for this bird. And I said this to Caitlin last night too when we were watching, like, you know, he comes back with that bird, he'd be on trending for Twitter for one day and nobody would give a shit.
Yeah.
True.
That science board probably doesn't even exist anymore.
He's like a good foil, like you were saying. Yeah, he looks for the end goal where Carl has to learn about the adventure and the in between and the new adventure, and not just like what at the end is. Because at the end, yeah, he probably would be like, all right, well, I don't know what to do with my life now.
He might guest narrate Planet Earth 4 or something like
Yes.
that. And
Maybe. Yeah.
Let me tell you all about South American
Let me tell you about all the people I killed.
But hey, you know what? It all worked out because now Carl has a new house.
Yeah.
I just
He flies around in a dirigible with
Yeah.
50 dogs.
I mean, that's the
Josh,
first thing
just-
he points at it when he was a kid.
the thing I
Josh,
totally
did
forgot
you have an
is that
epiphany?
Charles Muntz plummets to his death. I totally forgot about
Yeah.
that.
Oh,
I'm
he
like,
had no. He
oh,
had
damn.
like he had like 4 balloons on his leg.
Okay,
Yeah.
And he still dropped like a rock.
And
Caleb.
12 balloons were enough to keep Russell buoyant. So
Yeah.
you know, the 4 might have broken his fall.
He was lanky.
There might have been water down there.
Coming this summer, Upper, the sequel to the classic.
Upper. That's a
Upper.
different movie.
That's a way different movie.
More Up. The Pixar
Up to upper.
Up
From
to
the
no
writers of
good.
Train Spotting.
I think I've had it up to here with these.
That's what it is.
Up to
Wow.
Hunt for the Wildebeest.
Wow.
Josh.
Awesome. Nick, thank you so much for joining us on
yeah.
this grand adventure and telling us all about you and everything. Where would you like our audience to go to? Like anything specific you would like them to check out? Socials, Twitch, that kind of stuff, YouTube.
If you
Floor's
want to
yours.
find me pretty much anywhere on the internet, you can search me up by looking up Lanipator, Lanipator. You can find me pretty easily anywhere there, or on Team 4-Star. If it's anything I want to leave anybody with, it's just honestly, like, in these trying times, in this like rough situation that we've all been thrust into unwillingly, just make sure you take time to not only be good to each other, but be kind to yourself, because life is hard enough as it is without you being your own enemy.
True.
Well, I'll just stop
Yes.
existing now.
Okay, Josh. It's like, yes, I'm gonna go watch your video again right now.
So you
Well,
pretty much told me to
awesome.
not do what I do. Okay, that's cool.
Yeah, don't be you, Tom. Don't be
All
you.
right.
Stop
okay.
being you. Okay. Awesome.
Got it.
Thank you so much for joining us, Nick.
Yeah, thank you for having me. It's been wonderful.
Wasn't that awesome? No,
It was awesome.
Wasn't that swell,
good.
y'all?
It was, though.
everybody.
Here
That was
we
so
are.
fun. Would you rather
Boy,
that or like, that was a really excellent interview? Yeah? Yeah?
I
You
would
agree? You
prefer
agree?
all emotions over just tranquil music. That's how I am. But I like
yeah.
ham. I like full ham.
Full ham.
Full ham all the time.
But yeah, everybody at home, thank you so much for listening to that interview. I hope you enjoyed it. If you are new to Nerd On, do check out our website, nerdon.tv. It has literally all the information that you would need about us, all of the linky links to all of our socials, to
Check them out.
check them out. Check out our YouTube, our Twitch. The website has all of that stuff. It also includes where you can find Nerd On the podcast. All of our podcasts really are everywhere. Apple Podcasts, Spotify, iHeart. You get the picture. Everywhere. But do check that out. And wherever you do listen, please stop by, subscribe, rate, review, and share us with your friends and family. That's how
It's
we
free.
grow.
That's free. Those are the free
$3.90
things.
free. $3.90
Doesn't even
free.
cost you a thing.
It like really helps us a lot, though.
It does.
It helps us so much.
It gives us feedback, and it also helps us to like expand. Like, you wouldn't think that a review would help us like grow, but it really does, though.
It really
It also
does.
gets us closer to doing the topics that like you could just like, I want to do this, and the next week we do it. You know what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah.
get us closer to that. You know what I'm
People
saying?
have made suggestions in their reviews, and we did them. Yeah. So, and also, like I said at the top, do check out our Patreon. Join the Nerd On Nation. It helps us to grow. It helps us to be the best that we can be. nerdon.tv/Patreon and that Discord, nerdon.tv/Discord. Let's continue the conversation over there. There is a movie section. Let's talk some more there. But yeah, that has been the episode. Thank you so much for listening. Like Nick said, take care of yourselves. You know the drill. As always, Nerd On.
Nerd on.
Ending broadcast.